Here's the truth most execs don't want to say out loud. You can't plug AI into an org and just expect the same people in the same roles doing the same thing. AI doesn't just change how we work, it changes who does what. Ignoring that shift is the fastest way to turn tools that are smart into friction points. Welcome to Process of Elimination. I'm Justin L. Brown.
I'm Ryan Edwards.
And today we're talking about the AI reorg that's already happening and how to design roles that match the new rhythm of work.
To quote the immortal words of Bonnie Raitt.
Okay.
Let's give them something to talk about. A little mystery to figure out.
Talk about
AI.
Okay, this is a great topic because I'm seeing this so much where companies are so excited about their new AI tools, so excited about all the R&D that they put into it, and then they try to roll it out, and it's just going over so many people's heads because their job as an individual seems like it's actually more daunting with it, and they just want to keep it as is.
I mean, it's such an important topic because, people are just missing the mark.
Yeah.
They're getting caught up in the hype. Executive leaders are getting caught up in the hype of AI is going to change my company. I can do 10 times more with 10 times less overhead, stuff like that. And you can do 10 times more. You can do 10 times more with the same overhead. You can do 10 times more with half the overhead. Or you can do 100 times more with the same overhead if you look at it in the right way. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
It's a change. But as you said, you can't expect to use the exact same org structure and get 100 times more.
The value add a lot of times gets missed once it goes down to the people who have to actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
They are clearly smart people because that's why you have them there. But to say, okay, now I want you to add this tool in because it's going to help us as a company be a little more unified, but you've been used to, taking hand notes with every meeting that you're in, or you're used to when the client feedback comes in, you're used to using your own discernment to decide this is going to be the direction that we go, but then 5-10 iterations down the road, you have no idea where you started from, and you're trying to go back to your hand notes as opposed to having a system in place to be able to, see a pattern that you could have caught a little sooner. So the AI reorg, as it's saying, is so important to make sure that it actually disseminates down. That trickle-down effect, like the economy, the trickle-down effect, it's kind of like that, where, just trickle down this money to Coca-Cola, which could be a sponsor, so let's just say cola. Let's trickle it down to cola and hope that all of a sudden these individual workers get to see a pay bump. That's not how it works. You have to really go down to its core.
2 points. One, love how you're manifesting Coca-Cola as a future sponsor of the podcast.
I'm addicted to Coke Zero.
I feel like, I should drink Coke right now.
Yeah.
But
wait, they don't sponsor Taco Bell, though.
Conflict, man.
Go on.
We can do both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here's the problem that's not a problem, but a lot of places look at it top down, or they're just doing it bottom up by accident. Trickle down or bottom up. Here's the approach that works out really well. And this isn't a novel approach. This is a classic change management approach. This is an approach born out of us working with companies to integrate complex CRMs. This is an approach that we use working with people like NBC on other projects that we're now using with AI. You want to trickle down from the leadership, and then you want to do what I call tickle up from the bottom.
Okay, yeah.
And meet in the middle.
Yes, a trickle and tickle.
Yeah, a trickle and tickle.
Okay, Cool.
I'm not sure if that's going to get us banned talking about that on YouTube, but yeah.
Nah, there's much worse things than trickle tickles that's out there.
What I mean by the trickle tickle is you want to have from top down, you want to have guidelines, rules. It's really important to have the goals and the objectives and to create the culture. But at the same time, you want to work from the bottom up, and you want to talk to the people actually doing the work. How are you using AI? How can this be integrated into the team workflow and the individual workflow? And you want to give them the voice in the process and get them to tell you, yes, I hear what you're saying, but here's the reality. And it does more than just get the team ready for AI and get the inputs. It makes them part of the culture and part of the movement. It gives them ownership and agency. So you have the culture coming down from the top, and you have the teams working from the bottom, having that conversation, and then you meet in the middle. And here's part of it. This is how this not just transforms how you use AI, but I've seen this transform companies in general. Because now you see, is our culture over here and the way they're talking over here? And are we meeting in the middle or are we not meeting in the middle? And now you know, okay, we have a fundamental problem. And now let's adjust our culture to the way that we're working. And now we're a better company that's unified. That's where you get your 200x improvements.
That is a great analogy. By a company understanding from the top down that these tools, obviously, they wouldn't roll them out. Obviously, they believe in it from that level because they wouldn't have spent the money, spent the time and the effort putting into that space. From the bottom, there are project managers that are used to coordinating in a certain way, but now they're actually, instead of being a project manager, they're more of an agent coordinator. So they know that these tools that they have and these that are available that came from the top are supposed to be used in a certain way. They're disseminating it out in a certain way. The strategy team is really more prompt architects, and the ops team is more workflow designers. The titles that we've held traditionally, which this tradition is only like 100 years old, maybe. Like it really kind of goes back. I would say about 100 years is about accurate. Might feel like it's as old as Christmas, but it's as old as Santa Claus.
And to your point, look at not the title, but look at the function of teams.
Yeah.
For example, you're going to find if you're at a larger company and you have a CRM team, CRM thrives on workflow design. There's a lot of knowledge in there. Yes, it is specific to CRM, but it's the exact same thinking methodology. Look at those people and see how they can be used outside of that context. And as you're saying, that person is really, that CRM specialist in this example is really a workflow specialist.
Yeah.
That PM is really an organizational flow specialist. Look at them in that. Use them. Create cross-functional teams. There was a team management movement that never really took off about 10 years ago called balanced teams.
Okay.
And it was just too early for the time. I think the time for this is now. Where the theory behind balanced teams is you want to take people out of different functionalities and temporarily place them into balanced teams. So you have, for this example, a CRM person, a project management person, a product person, a marketing person, all onto one team and see how that redefines the structure in the org.
Got it. So you basically take the traditional team that would normally do a task, break them off into a different functioning team, and then implement the tool so that way they can step away from what they normally would do to execute the task and then see how that actually works out and then put them back in that traditional team so that way they can come back with new knowledge. That's how I'm taking it.
It does one massive mind shift. The thing about AI and using AI and implementing all these great tools into it is AI knows no silos. It doesn't think in silos. And this forces us to, and what we're talking about is breaking down silo thinking into a fluid type of thinking.
Got it. I remember when I used to work in TV production, one of the hugest pieces in TV production is if a cable is laid and it's in the way, don't touch it. Find a grit person, because that is their job. And the moment you touch it, now you're infringing on their job. So that's a big deal when it comes to TV production. It's unions involved, it's all of these rules and stipulations that makes it so, as up to now, it works as a really functional, efficient team. When it comes to this reorg, that mentality is still there, might not necessarily be unionized, but how do you get individuals that are used to doing certain tasks in a certain way at a certain time to wrap their heads around the idea that they should rethink those tasks that are now probably automatic for them? How do you help them wrap your heads around that?
That's a really good question. And it's one of those things that's much easier said than done. And in your analogy, never worked in TV production, but I'm going to roll with an analogy that I know nothing about.
Okay.
Because that's where the fun happens.
Yes, it is. I'll help you.
So you have that cord laying out.
Yeah.
And let's say that cord was going from, a lighting rig to an outlet. And and then you have the camera person there and they're like, I can't touch that. But that's slowing down my process, but I'll go find that person. What if instead you all got together for 2 or 3 minutes and said, here's the lanes, here's how we can flow the power cords so we avoid this problem. Or you know what? I need my own power cords. You need your own power cords. What if we have a power strip right here in the middle and lay that out there so we can all plug into it out of the way, shorter distance and centralized to all of us? The way you do it is, and the whole idea is you have these broader conversations and you see how there are ways that the team can work together and get a unified solution, like in that. Maybe the solution is quite simply, let's just put a power strip right there in the middle and let us all plug in.
It makes sense, but in TV production, that would be a huge no-no. But what I took from that was it actually was the system that was messed up, because the reason why the cord is there is because someone didn't communicate that this lane needed to be open. So maybe taking your analogy, taking the extra 30 seconds to be like, hey, next time, let's make sure that we understand that this lane needed to be open. That's actually going to be in the shot, or this is going to be in the way of the camera person. So let's make sure our coordinator talks to this person so the next cable that they lay will be laid down that first time.
Exactly. And now you know what you're creating? That makes everybody work together. Our favorite 3-letter acronym.
Oh, what is? I say it. Let's say it. 1, 2, 3. SOP.
And that's a workflow. And
Yes.
that makes everything work together. And now, guess what? Again, never working in TV production, but that lighting person has more time to spend on what their focus is, what their task is. Everybody has more time to spend in their specific area, all because a system was changed, a process was created.
So yeah, the reorg sounds like it's missing in a lot of places the SOP. It's missing the operating procedure. It's missing, if you spent all this time building a system that we're supposed to utilize, and as you just said, which is brilliant, that AI doesn't see silos, then with these new AI tools, it needs to be almost just as much, I would venture to say, more attention into the operating procedure that AI is actually being plugged into. And that's going to require training. That's going to require some guidance from leadership to help out. Because the people that are tickling up, as we were talking about, are doing that on their own. They're actually going into the SOP and saying, okay, this is how I would actually approach this. This is the prompt pack that I would do myself. And that prompt pack, that thinking is going to stay with the individual. We talked about shadow AI before, and then it doesn't really help out the org. It actually kind of hurts it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a phrase that I've been using a lot lately. It is culture is your OS, and AI is the application that runs in the OS.
Ooh,
And what we're talking, like in that example of the production studio, it's not a reorg that they needed. It's a re-communication. They need to reorganize the way that they communicated and approached their SOPs. They don't need to say, hey, you lighting person, you're no longer a lighting person, you're a camera person. And, they didn't even need to say, we need to break down the union roles. They just simply needed a new organizational structure to communicate in.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I'm thinking about all the training modules that are out there that orgs send out with their new AI tools or any tools that they have, and how that actually looks. But I don't ever see an org actually sit down with the person doing the job and having a two-way communication. It's always, oh, and these are the ways that you can utilize it. Take step 1, step 2, step 3, boom. But actually sitting down and having a little bit of feedback or being there for questions is a huge piece of that.
And that's where the tickle up comes in from the trickle down.
Yes.
Tickle and trickle makes the world turn.
Literally came up with that right now. But for our ideology drop, we want to talk about internal and external audits.
Right? Or in your work, see who you can tickle.
Yeah, we're not tickling people at work. We're not tickling people at work.
Okay, HR violation.
But what we are going to do is we're going to do an internal audit, which is basically you're looking at your work holistically. Think about, and I would venture to say, instead of trying to think about something intellectually, think about it emotionally. Think about how your work has been traditionally with the tools that you have. And then when it comes to places where you can potentially see AI helping out, and then once you're able to do that, we want to start thinking about talking to people from different teams or coworkers, or just having the conversation on how other teams are utilizing AI. And that'll be the external side. So on the internal side, let's talk about the internal audit.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, it's asking yourself this one simple question. Where could a little bit of communication, where could breaking out of the normal silos have helped you, have saved you time, have saved you money, have given you insights? Because that siloed bridge is potentially a great opportunity for AI to help your workflows.
Yeah, I love that, because what happens a lot of times is we see things after the fact, and then we almost think that we're going to remember, man, it would have been great if we recorded that meeting. And then the next meeting comes up, but you forgot that the last meeting would have been great if you'd have recorded it or got a transcript or whatever that is. Those moments happen for us a lot that we usually don't have an outlet for. So when it comes to internal audit, this is that time where you can actually see where some of those could be actioned.
Or along that lines, how often am I in a meeting where I'm just like, you know what, here's what I took from that meeting, but you have a different task, you have a different role in this project. What might have you taken? What perspective you needed from this meetings and the history of it that you weren't there for? Great, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a GPT for this client. Here's all the meetings I've uploaded. You ask your questions because I'm not the expert in your area. I can't answer those.
Yeah.
Here's my knowledge base for you to query and to look into.
How much of the responsibility of creating the GPT falls on the individual versus the org?
It's both. And that's why, all joking aside, that's why, we talked about trickle down, tickle up.
Yeah.
It's because you need to have it from the structure of how is this feeding into the long-term goals and objectives of the team and the company, and how is that balanced with serving the team, serving the people, and breaking down these silos. You can't say it's the role of one or it's the role of the other. That's why an emerging role in the next few years in smart companies is not going to be a prompt engineer. It's going to be a workflow GPT or a workflow agent engineer.
Yeah.
Or a great way also, a little self-serving, but a great way also, and this has always been the way, because we're talking about transformation. Bring in a consultant from the outside, because they have the specific knowledge on how to execute a GPT or a workflow or agent, but more importantly, they look from the outside from an objective point of view, and they don't have to worry about the politics.
Yeah. I imagine every team has somebody that is some sort of AI efficient. And that individual, if they're not careful, will be tasked with creating the GPTs and the prompts and everything for the entire team. So that could get daunting, and also add in a lot of extra stress and work, and then you got to manage it and you have to be responsible for it, and why isn't this working, all of that. And then from the org side, you have the tools that they would like you to use that are trickling down, but I haven't seen that buffer in between. Like, there's great IT guys out there where your computer goes down, you need to get something uploaded, you need a new software, there's whatever questions you have an IT guy that you're able to reach out to and ask the most dumbest questions to something that might need to get laddered up all the way to corporate. And that's their entire job, and they're so useful. Every company has it. What you're saying is it would be great if there was someone equivalent to that IT person that can come in and say, okay, this team, you are doing 15 meetings a week. These meetings look like this. Let's build something that can attach to your Gemini or attach to your Zoom or attach to whatever that is. And then now your meeting notes are going to be specifically useful for the use case that you guys are running into every day, every quarter, every year.
Yeah, the hot topic for 2025, by the way, hot topic, potential sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
The hot topic for 2025 is who owns AI in the company. And this is the wrong topic. The right topic that should be the hot topic for 2025 is who facilitates AI in the company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just distilled down exactly what I was asking. Who facilitates it? Just like the IT analogy, the company is going to buy the computer. The IT person facilitates that computer to you, and with everything that you need, so that way you can do your job properly, and they're there to ask you some questions. I feel for the people that are doing their own research and that are building their own tools, and then now are somewhat responsible for training the team around them to be able to utilize those tools. I feel for y'all. I really do.
Now, I'm going to practice how we preach a little bit, break down the silos that we normally work in,
Okay.
and I'm going to bring up the next part of the ideology drop.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to say that ideology drop because you always get to.
Go ahead.
The next part of it is knowing. You need to know where you sit. And to know where you sit, you have to do an audit. And you have to do an audit from the point of view of the person. You have to do the audit of the point of view of the team or the company. And you have to do an audit of the ROI that it's going to bring in. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, a company is all about one thing, ROI, return on investment. And those are 3 easy ways to start to know from a cultural standpoint, the audit of where the company's at, cultural standpoint, where you sit and how AI fits into your culture, the personal audit, where people are using AI, their comfort in AI and how they're using AI, and the ROI audit. Is the use of AI laddering up to the benefit of the company? That knowledge is key. That knowledge is where you start, and that knowledge is at your fingertips.
How important is it for them to then, on top of their workload, build in time for an audit, whether it's on the impersonal, like on all the levels you just spoke about?
Audits are key, but audits should never be complex. They should never be lengthy. If I'm working 7 to 10, that audit should take up my time from 7 to 7:15 or 7 to 7:10, and that's it.
Okay.
They're meant to be short snapshots because that's how you get your best information. One result, that's where you get people's gut reaction. That's where you get the truth. And it's not complex. You're not writing a novel. You're answering a question. So they should be simple and easy to do and accessible.
Okay. So we talked about it a little bit, but break down that 10 minutes. Because that's a big piece of it is how much time we actually have to do the steps we need to be successful. So let's just break down this 10 minutes real quick.
Now, for a 10-minute audit for each team member, let's say a team member of 10,
Yeah.
the key is they're each asked the same question that they can answer. And how we do an audit is we do an audit of you have questions 1 through 4, ranking. Are you using AI every day, every hour, every minute, once a week? Never. Answer that. It's a series of questions, simple to answer as that individually, they're interesting, but they're not great. Collectively, all of them give you a great insight. And they're the exact same questions for each team member, so you can see where each team member sits, because each team is only as strong as the team members.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing for the question on the team or the company, on where the company sits with AI. Now, you don't have everybody in the company do that, but that one, again, is a simple audit, simple questions, and you have the key stakeholders in the company answer that question. Again, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're all answering the same questions. But what that sees is if you have a key team member, let's just go back to the example of the TV production crew. If you have the lighting person, the camera person, the director, the AD, and the person in charge of talent all answering the same questions, you see from a departmental standpoint and a team standpoint who's strong, who's not, and where the holes are at. And then you have the ROI calculator, which tells you, hey, here's the advantage to doing it. And what the key to that is, that allows you to know, A, is there a big advantage to doing it? And B, it makes buy-in really easy. Hey, there's an advantage to us doing it. Let's just go right in and do it.
Yeah.
Because we have that. And all of those individually are easy to do. It's collectively that the power comes in.
Got it. And I love how you broke that down for the collective and for the individuals. I think, on a project, we all should in some way have a rap deck, like at least a postmortem, something to go against. Postmortems are very difficult to do if you did nothing to prepare for the postmortem until the postmortem. So that audit is, that last meeting, we could have did this, and that. But actually setting up a space in your 15 ups or whatever that looks like to say, hey, by the way, these are some steps that we could take to make sure these next few are a little smoother. I think that's important, and it should already be a part of your SOP. But if it's not, this is the invitation to actually do that.
Yep.
Cool. I love it.
And we have an easy audit for you to use.
We do?
We do.
Tell me about it.
Again, it's going to be down in the info, link to it, and it's a web form audit.
Okay.
Anybody could do it. Give it to each team member. It's broken up into 3 parts. For the individual, for the team, and an ROI calculator.
Okay.
And this audit takes, I would say, about 5 minutes to do.
Oh, that's
Per
easy.
person. Do it. Get the outputs of it, and it'll tell you exactly where you stand, what the potential is, and where the opportunities are.
That's great. You can definitely spare 5 minutes. That's awesome. So I'm gonna do that audit myself as well. It's about right there, and this podcast has already made me so efficient when it comes to AI, but I'm really excited to apply that to my next week ahead of me.
And thank you to our potential sponsor, Hot Topic.
Please and thank you. All right, great. So we have, not only did we talk about our ideology drop, but we actually did talk about our CTA for today, which is do the audit down there. So next time we're going to talk about output doesn't equal impact. Just because you're doing more with AI doesn't mean you're doing better. So I'm excited for that conversation. It's going to...
So my quick question for you, though.
Oh, okay.
Does output doesn't equal impact? Is that another way of saying size doesn't matter?
Okay, see, you're trying to start all these other podcasts with this. I don't even want to touch that one. Thank you for watching Process of Elimination.
Wait, you mean you don't want to tickle up that one?
No, I don't want to tickle up that one.